Before I start, do I have everyone's permission to record it?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Even though I already get started, but anywho. Um, Sounds good. Okay, now I need to figure out how to share my screen with everybody.
Oh, that's pretty.
Can you see my presentation okay?
Yes.
I need this to stay down. Perfect. Okay. Okie dokie. All right, so while I'm giving the presentation, I'll ask for you guys to mute your mics, and then after the presentation, I do have a question for everyone that I would like for everyone to participate in. Um, so yeah, I'm going to get started once I figure out how to move this Skype thing. There we go. Okay. How do I get the actual slide to start now is the question. There it goes. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to my talk. First thing I need to say is I appreciate you coming to listen, especially taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. This presentation is about the Ogallala Aquifer, its impact on the area of Kansas, its depletion, and the approaches in order to hopefully save or at least reduce the depletion of this amazing resource. The Ogallala Aquifer is the lifeblood of agriculture. It spans from the southern tip of South Dakota into the Texas Panhandle. It is the largest aquifer in the world by volume. It can hold more than 1 trillion gallons of water. The aquifer accounts for more than 30% of U.S. crops and livestock production, as well as 13% of food exports. So it's very, 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 very important. Crops in the area are watered by center pivot irrigation systems. And center pivot irrigation systems, for those that don't know, pull water up from a water well instead of relying on moisture from above. And center pivot irrigation came about after World War II, of course, after the Dust Bowl. So it saved agriculture in the area. However, unfortunately, it came at a huge price. While you are watching the graphic on the side, because I know I would be if I were y'all, in the diagram, what you're seeing is 80 years of water being used. Keep in mind that center pivot, again, irrigation became commonly used after 1945, or after World War II, as the diagram continues. The state of the aquifer now, due to continuous overuse of the water in the aquifer has lost 89 trillion gallons of water between 1930 to the year 2000. It is projected by researchers that roughly 50% of farmland in the High Plains will no longer be used for farming by the year 2100, which is in 76 years. And 70% of the Ogallala aquifer will be 70% of it will be depleted within the next 40 to 45 years. The majority of this depletion is due to irrigation and water for livestock. And the scary part, I feel, is that it'll take 6,000 years to replenish the areas that have lost the most water. Here is a map of the aquifer today. Now, the gray parts show what hasn't changed. So it does not represent like complete loss of water. That's what I thought when I first saw it. So it does not show that whatsoever. It just shows there's neither refill or less water. The parts, now some of the parts of the aquifer, as you can see in blue, are being refilled. However, I do want you to compare the blue parts to the parts in the orange and the red to the deep red, which of course are the parts that are being depleted. And comparing the two is kind of a scary thought, I feel. And this map also provides where we are. And so you can see in Southwest Kansas where, because it's Arkansas River there, where it's been unfortunately depleted. See here. So what can we do about this? What can we do about this problem? Best thing to do is to understand that the planet that has finite resources. While water and the water cycle do give us almost complete renewable resource, due to less moisture than normal falling each year, as well as extreme use of the aquifer, it will take many generations for it to replenish the areas that have lost the most water. And while it is okay to consume, because we need to in order to survive, we need to remember and be aware that what we do does have a ripple effect. People in the past honestly had no way of knowing how their use of the aquifer would affect us today. However, we know now. We know now that how we use water today affects people using the same source elsewhere, as well as future generations. Our parts affect the whole, or or as us as individuals affect the community and beyond. So let's not repeat history and make a brighter future for our children. Um, and with that, we need to start looking forward into the future, or continue to also look forward into the future. Looking forward into the future means that, of course, we are thinking about our children and future generations, and hopefully that they will have to live without the worry of running out of water. Because once it's gone, unfortunately, it does sound like, according to researchers, that it won't be a viable place to live. So, our future thinking and actions in ways that we conserve water should be intergenerational. And by doing our part to teach the next generation the same actions and views, the aquifer will hopefully be around for much longer. And so some practical ways to do that, I have two different things about this. So first are tips that we can just do at home, which you probably have heard many times. Simply, turning off the water when you're at home when you're not using it. Instead of dumping water down the drain, uh, put it in plants or elsewhere. For example, with my hot water bottle, I will put it. I'll use it for my plants when I'm done with the water. Of course, only use the dishwasher when it's completely filled, and leaks. Leaks not only waste tons of water, but also are very expensive. So get leaks. Fixed as soon as you can. And for more information, there's a link down below on the slide. Some options for those of you with farms, crops, and livestock that I would like to who would like to make some changes but don't quite know where to start. I have a brief overview over some options that Kansas can offer and that you all can choose from. The first one is a Water Transition Assistance Program, or Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program. This is for areas that are drastically low on water levels, but there are federal and state paid partnerships that provide annual federal rental payment and a state sign-up incentive, plus additional cost-sharing funding for implementation. Next is the KDA irrigation technology, which is incentives to improve water usage with water-saving technology. And funding is provided for new irrigation technology. Next is water innovations, systems, and education. And these are incentives to help agricultural and industrial water usage to be better, or to better conserve water. These options, this option partners with field practices and technologies that will best fit your situation. From what I read and understand, this might be a good option for farmers with livestock. Other two options are local enhanced management areas, as well as water conservation areas. Water conservation areas have a lot more freedom to do what you would like to do. However, the local enhanced management areas have a lot more legalities and not as much freedom to do what you would like to do. And this is just an overview of each. I've made a pamphlet online for more information that tells more information about each, as well as government sites about how to get started. And if I can get this up, here we go. So here is the QR code from that slide that you can scan for more information about those slides, sorry, how to get started. And then this QR code here will just simply take you to this presentation. If you would like to save it for whatever reason, go back to it. And last, this QR code here, if you could please take your time to scan that and fill out the questionnaire, that would help me out quite a bit and help me know how best to change information if need to for this presentation, and how to make it better. You can maybe be as honest as you'd like to be. However, before I'm done, I would like to ask and discuss the question on this slide here, which is, with the information presented to you, how do you feel about your approach to using water, and will it change after hearing this presentation? And I think I will leave the question up so y'all can think about it. Go ahead and answer in any manner you'd like to.
I don't think it necessarily changes how I feel about water. I'm familiar with the aquifer and kind of the situation around it a little bit, but in terms of changing our approach to water, I mean, maybe some of the things around using water for plants that maybe we don't necessarily, maybe we just dump out, or trying to use rainwater and something like that instead of just water that we get out of the faucet. But yeah.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I'd say being in the UK, this is, I haven't heard of this kind of farming technique or water technique before. But and obviously here, we get a lot of rain, so we don't need that. But yeah, it just made me wonder, like, in terms from I guess from a, like, a government point of view, like, is anything being done to well, help with this? It'll be like, in terms of like how I see the water and stuff, again, we everything from, like, how you flush your toilet. We have, like, I can't remember the code, but the things inside it, so it doesn't fill up as much, so you're saving water that way and stuff like that. But yeah, from like being in America, like, from a government point of view, like, what would they be doing to make these changes from, like, a nationwide thing to have a great
Yes.
impact rather than just an individual impact?
That's where there's some differences, because Kansas itself will be different than like the rest of the country. And each state has their own different water appropriation laws. And so Kansas will have something different than Missouri, than Massachusetts, than Alaska. And so these steps are one way that the state is taking action in order to help out with that. There are some legislation that's gone through to help make this information more known so that something can happen. However, there's not much more than that. However, this is definitely more than what was happening, I want to say probably 30 years ago or so. And so I'm happy to say that, like, farmers are aware, and a lot of farmers do want to take action. But there are some that just don't quite, like, I think, don't quite know what to do, and so that information probably needs to get out more. When it comes to the government side, that is a bit more tricky, because it definitely would be Kansas that would focus on it, and not the United States that would focus on it. And yes, of course, there are some people that resist it and don't want to, but like that's just kind of it is what it is. But I think most people probably will want to fix the problem, if not try to do their own part.
Yeah.
And before time runs out, Linda, do you mind how do you feel about the presentation?
Yeah, I don't know. I think we do a pretty good job of turning off our water after we're done with it. Like when you brush your teeth, you get the toothbrush wet, and then you turn off the water, and then you brush your teeth,
Sure.
and then rinse. But I had never really thought about dumping water like on your plants instead of down the sink.
Mm-hmm.
A good
I don't know
point.
why I didn't think of it either until now, but yeah, just something simple that you can do for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it might not change anything for us, but it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Something to think about.
Yeah. Now, Garrett, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was going to,
Go for it.
not to just add a little bit more context to it, to your question, James. So for each state, like there
Yes,
are
please do.
different, if I remember right, there are different allocations for like how much someone can irrigate their fields, like a limit on how many gallons per X amount of months.
Right,
That can
okay.
fluctuate depending on drought, you know, water scarcity and things like that. But for the government involvement in it, it varies from state to state. It's kind of like state
Right.
ran on how many gallons you can pump within a certain amount of time. There are some different factors around that, but it is regulated for the most part. I think each state, if I could be wrong, but I think each state has like a kind of maybe not a set law, but kind of like a regulation, if you will, or like a kind of set requirement for how many gallons you're supposed to be able to pump out of like a river or any type of lake or any type of water source. There should be some type of requirement or limit that's set for how much you can pump out of that, which is typically why most people will pump kind of towards the hotter months when we have less rain, and we'll kind of save that allocation to pump around then. But I'm not sure what the requirements are for each state.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that feedback, Garrett. It's good information. Thank you everybody, because unfortunately my time is out, for coming. I super appreciate it. Again, if you could please fill out that QR code, that would be very, very helpful. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Oh, thank you.
Don't quite leave yet though.